Paws of Fury, The Legend of Hank is out now in theaters and is the newest production from Paramount Pictures and Nickelodeon Pictures. A hard-on-his-luck beagle hound named Hank finds himself in a town full of cats who need a hero to defend themselves from a ruthless villain's evil plot to wipe their village off the map. With the help of a reluctant teacher to train him, our underdog must assume the role of town samurai and team up with the villagers to save the day. When I first saw the trailers for this movie, I really thought to myself, wow, that's going to be an interesting spin-off of Kung Fu Panda. Turns out it has nothing to do with Kung Fu Panda. This movie is actually inspired by the Mel Brooks movie Blazing Saddles, and Mel Brooks himself is not only a producer on this movie, but also voices a character in this movie. And what I did like about this movie is that the supporting characters I thought were good, and the voice acting for all of the characters was great across the board. I could picture these voices being these characters. There were certain supporting characters that I really did gravitate towards, and I thought that they were more fleshed out than some main characters. It's got fun enough sequences. The action, I think, is animated very well here. It's a fun enough time to keep kids occupied for about an hour and a half. It is directed fairly well. They know how to place characters in the frame and where to place those characters in the frame and what shots are more useful at certain points in this animation. The animation style, I'll get into a little bit more in my negatives, which I guess I'll talk about now. This movie is one of the most predictable animated films I've seen. It's almost as if there isn't enough effort put into this movie. It feels like they just watched a bunch of other animated movies that had a similar structure. I mean, I feel like almost every animated movie has a similar structure nowadays, but you know how it is. There's always something that keeps that animated movie fresh. There was nothing here that felt fresh about it. It felt like it was just putting the puzzle pieces in the puzzle where they belong. You know, you already know where they're supposed to go. You're just putting those pieces together, and now that puzzle is complete. And the animation style didn't really work for me. I mean, when it's actually a 3D animated movie, very similar to how most animation is nowadays, that's what I really like. But when it's flashing back between like 2D animation and anime, and it's trying to mix all those together, it doesn't really work for me. Like, there's flashback scenes with certain characters that utilize a different animation style, and I didn't think it was as effective as just using the regular 3D animation that the film was already utilizing. It also becomes a movie that is self-aware. It's intentionally breaking the fourth wall. It wasn't needed in this movie, and it didn't work for me. It was actually very distracting. There was nothing throughout a good chunk of this movie that really warranted that. If it was self-referential and self-aware, if it was a meta movie right from the beginning, something like Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, I would have been more forgiving of that, but it just felt like it was taking itself so seriously that when they were using meta references and when it was becoming self-aware, it just became a massive distraction, and it took me out of the movie every time I watched it. Like, for instance, there's characters that mention, well, we have an 85-minute allotment for this movie, and it's like, okay, where is that coming from? Like, why are we doing this in this movie? And it's weird how they're also referencing modern things and objects in a movie that doesn't necessarily use that, or uses those as like a joke. And the jokes don't land for me. The jokes are definitely for the kids. I don't think I laughed once in this movie. My biggest issue with Paws of Fury is that it just feels like this vehicle for Paramount to create a new intellectual property. This just feels like a backdoor pilot. 3 separate 20 to 30 minute episodes that they just put in theaters as a backdoor pilot for a new TV show that they want to put on Nickelodeon. It's just a gateway for a new franchise, IP that Paramount just wants to throw at kids because they're like, well, kids are probably depraved with the content we have on Nickelodeon now, so let's just make something new. And it felt so similar to Kung Fu Panda that actually did become annoying for me after a while. And like I said, watching the trailer for this movie before other movies that I've seen this year, I legitimately thought that it was a spinoff of Kung Fu Panda. I think that this movie has enough fun for adults, just not in the humor department. I think you can side with some supporting characters, and I think it is a well-directed animated movie. It's just the animation style flickers back and forth too much, and I'm not 100% sure that the meta references were the best way to go for this movie, and it's just so obvious that this is here, that this was created just to make a new intellectual property, and air that TV show on Nickelodeon. I get it, it's business. That's the business side, that's the corporate side of things, but I feel like with movies like this, studios are a bit more subtle in that regard. This beat it over the head. That we're trying to make this a thing. Now let's get to it. You know, I enjoyed Paws of Fury, The Legend of Hank with at least half a bucket of popcorn. It's not the worst animated movie I've ever seen, but I think just a one-time watch, I think that's going to be it for me. It's a predictable animated movie that doesn't offer anything new to the genre. So guys, have you seen Paws of Fury, The Legend of Hank? If you have, drop me some feedback in the comment section below. I'll leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.